The Xyrath system was burning. From orbit, the blue-green planet of Calira had been reduced to chaos. Fire spread across sprawling cities, smoke rising into the pale sky, visible even from space. Alien warships, black as the void itself, moved with perfect coordination, striking anything that resisted. The defenders were few, and their weapons, though advanced, were no match for the Vrelk armada. On the bridge of the orbital defense station, Commander Lurak's tentacles trembled over the control panel. Shields at 30%, hull integrity at 40, we cannot hold much longer, he shouted. Around him, panic rippled among the crew. The Vrelk did not feel mercy. They destroyed without hesitation. A massive pulse hit the station, sending it spinning. Red lights flashed, alarms screamed, and consoles sparked. Lurak braced himself. The station groaned under the impact. One of the younger officers, trembling, cried out, "Commander! Evacuation pods are almost full. The population is—" Lurak swallowed hard. He knew it was too late for many. "Do it," he said, voice firm. "Save who you can, the rest we buy time." Far away in the Galactic Council chambers, alien delegates argued loudly. The Vrelk attacks were spreading across several systems. They destroyed entire fleets in hours. Panic had reached the Council. "We cannot send our forces," one delegate hissed. "They will be destroyed before even entering Xyrath." Another delegate with translucent wings spoke firmly. "If we do nothing, entire species will be wiped out. Countless lives gone. Humanity is the only power bold enough to intervene." The council murmured. Humanity had a reputation. They were young, aggressive, and often reckless, but no one could deny their results. When humans acted, they acted with purpose and deadly efficiency. In a sleek human command ship, the intrepid Valor, Captain Mara Holden stood before her crew. Her hazel eyes scanned the display of the Xyrath system. Ships in orbit screamed for help, planets burned, and countless lives hung in the balance. Her voice was calm, almost cold. "We've been called to help, and we will, not because they begged, but because it is right. Remember, the odds are against us, but we do not back down." The crew, human men and women of all ages, nodded. They had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare them for the horrors awaiting in the Xyrath system. Behind Mara, Lieutenant Cade, her second-in-command, tapped the console. "Sensors show at least 5 times our numbers. Vrelk ships are armed with plasma disruptors and energy shields. Their fleet formation is almost perfect." Mara leaned over the console, eyes narrowing. "Then we'll be unpredictable. They expect brute force. They don't expect humans." The council watched silently from their holographic displays as the human fleet prepared to jump into the system. Ships small and large, armed with weapons that humans had engineered in secret, powered up. Even the council, who often doubted human judgment, felt a shiver of anticipation. In the Xyrath system, refugees scrambled toward evacuation points. Families huddled together as firestorms consumed cities. Sirens blared. Ships attempting to leave the atmosphere were intercepted by the Vrelk, blown apart before leaving orbit. The galaxy's cries seemed deafening, but through the chaos, hope arrived. A sudden shimmering ripple in space, a jump gate opening, revealed the human fleet. Smaller than the Vrelk armada, yes, but moving with purpose. Red and silver ships glided into the system, lasers gleaming, engines humming like a heartbeat. Commander Lurak saw them first. His eyes widened in disbelief. "The humans, they are here." Even the Vrelk flagship hesitated, scanning the new arrivals. They were familiar with humans, of course. Stories of human courage and ferocity were whispered in every corner of the galaxy. But no one had expected them to respond to Xyrath. Not for this system, not for these people. Captain Mara's voice came over the fleet comms, steady and commanding. "This is Captain Mara Holden of the United Earth Fleet. Evacuate the civilians. We will cover you. Vrelk, if you value your lives, stand down." The Vrelk commander's laugh was harsh, mechanical. "Humans, alone, "You will burn." Mara did not reply. She simply turned to her officers. "Engage. Protect the evac ships first, then strike where they least expect it." The humans moved like shadows in the void. Their first maneuver was unexpected. Instead of forming a line, they split into unpredictable patterns, weaving through asteroids, using the debris as cover. The Vrelk fired, but their weapons were less accurate than anticipated. Human ships darted in and out of fire, hitting weak points, disabling key supply ships without overextending themselves. On the ground, evacuation pods launched. Civilians clutched loved ones as they rose into orbit. A small boy, eyes wide, whispered, "Humans, they came for us." His mother held him tight, tears streaming. Captain Mara observed the operations with a careful eye. "Keep them moving. Don't let the Vrelk predict our patterns. Every move counts. Every life matters." One human fighter, piloted by Ensign Jax, performed a daring maneuver around a Vrelk cruiser. He fired a plasma torpedo into the ship's energy core. The cruiser erupted in flames, spinning into the void. Jax's comm crackled, target destroyed, civilians safe. On to the next. Mara smiled faintly. "That's why we're human. We do what others think impossible." The Vrelk commander's frustration grew. "They are reckless, chaotic, impossible to anticipate." He barked orders, but each human strike was faster than his commands, smarter than his calculations. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, delegates watched the battle unfold. Some were horrified, some were inspired. "Humans," one whispered, "they are the galaxy's wild card." On Kalira's surface, aliens who had lost hope began to see a flicker of salvation. Families huddled, staring at the sky, seeing humans diving into the chaos, shielding evacuation ships, destroying Vrelk interceptors. Hope, long lost, began to bloom. Commander Lurak, holding a comm to the surface, spoke softly, almost in awe. They are saving us." Mara's fleet continued their methodical attacks. They targeted weak points, used clever traps, and never wasted fire. Every human ship, from the smallest fighter to the largest cruiser, seemed to anticipate danger, adapt, and strike with precision. It was not just courage, it was genius under pressure. Yet the human captain knew this was only the beginning. The Vrelk fleet was vast. They had won battles elsewhere. They had killed billions. The humans had to be careful, not for their own sake, but for the countless lives depending on them. A sudden explosion rocked the human fleet. One of the escort ships was hit, spinning toward a planet's surface. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Focus. We protect the lives first. Never forget that. Every ship, every crew member is important. Do not let them die in vain." Lieutenant Cade gritted his teeth. "Captain, there are more Vrelk reinforcements approaching. They will try to cut us off." Mara's hands tightened on the console. "Then we will show them what humans are made of." The galaxy was crying. Entire worlds were at stake, but humanity had arrived. Not as saviors who begged for gratitude, but as warriors who would act because it was right, and because no one else could do what humans could. From the surface of Kalira, children pointed at the sky. Refugees whispered tales that would spread across the galaxy. The humans came. They did not hesitate, they fought. They saved us. And in the cold void of space, Captain Mara Holden prepared her fleet for the coming storm. Knowing this was only the first battle, and the galaxy's hope now rested in human hands. The Vrelk were not accustomed to being challenged. Their ships were engineered for perfection, their commanders trained for precision, and yet the humans had arrived and shattered expectations. The Vrelk fleet, massive and imposing, hovered over the Kalira system, scanning, calculating, hesitant for the first time. Captain Mara Holden's fleet glided through space like a silver storm. The human ships were smaller, fewer in number, but their movements were unpredictable, almost chaotic to anyone who expected orderly formations. Mara leaned over the command console on the intrepid Valor, her eyes flicking across the holographic display. "Sensors confirm civilian ships are on course. "We've evacuated nearly half the population of Kalira's surface," reported Lieutenant Cade. "But the Vrelk are regrouping and they're faster than expected," Mara nodded. "Then we adapt, that's what we do." Her voice was calm, confident. "Humans are not predictable, that is our advantage." In the Vrelk flagship, Commander Krath roared in frustration. "How are they moving so irregularly? Every calculation, every probability fails." His multifaceted eyes glinted with irritation. "Focus fire on the largest ship. Destroy it. That will scatter the rest." But the humans anticipated the attack before it even came. Using the dense asteroid belt in the outer orbit as cover, they darted between massive rocks and debris, firing precision torpedoes and disabling key alien vessels. One human cruiser weaved through a narrow canyon of asteroids, firing from blind spots the Vrelk never thought to defend. Ensign Jax, piloting one of the human fighters, laughed as he dodged a plasma beam. "You'll have to do better than that, Shiny," he muttered over comms, releasing a salvo that tore a Vrelk fighter in half. From the surface of Kalira, citizens watched in disbelief. They had lived under fear for generations, believing their planet was doomed. Now humans were fighting, not for profit, not for glory, but because it was the right thing to do. Elderly Kalirians whispered to each other, eyes wide. They actually came for us." Mara's voice came over the fleet comms, steady and commanding. "Do not let them flank the evacuation ships. Civilian safety first. Every life counts. Engage only when necessary. Precision over power. Adapt, react, and survive." Human ingenuity was already showing its edge. Instead of relying on brute force, the fleet used clever tactics. Small fighters distracted enemy cruisers while larger ships struck supply lines. Automated drones, packed with explosives, lured Vrelk vessels into asteroid fields. One drone detonated near a cluster of Vrelk ships, sending them spinning into each other, leaving wreckage drifting in silence. The Vrelk commander's frustration grew. Why are they always one step ahead? They fight like animals with intellect, like a chaos with strategy. Aboard the intrepid Valor, Mara calmly studied the enemy's movements. "They are precise," she said, "but they can't adapt. Humans adapt instantly. That is what makes us dangerous." She gestured to Lieutenant Cade. "Prepare for counterstrike. We'll hit their rear flank in 3 minutes. They won't see it coming." Cade nodded, fingers flying over the controls. Course plotted, all ships ready for coordinated attack. Moments later, the humans executed their maneuver flawlessly. Small craft zipped around the enemy formation, creating chaos, while larger vessels struck with devastating accuracy. Plasma cannons and torpedoes tore through the Vrelk rear ships, crippling engines and shields. The Vrelk, who had believed themselves invincible, now reeled under human assault. On Kalira, the civilians cheered as evacuation ships continued to lift off. Children clung to parents, eyes wide, mouths open in disbelief at the silver streaks of human fighters dancing across the sky. A small girl pointed at one fighter spiraling past a Vrelk ship and shouted, "Look, the humans! They're saving us!" In the Vrelk flagship, Commander Krath slammed a clawed hand on a console. "Focus! Do not let them escape! Destroy their ships!" He was beginning to panic. Never before had an enemy matched the Vrelk fleet in strategy while being smaller and weaker. Humans, however, had no fear. Fear was not in their nature. They calculated risks, yes, but they were willing to face death to protect others. Captain Mara directed a small squadron on a daring mission. They would jump behind the Vrelk's main formation and take out the command ship. Ensign Jax grinned. "Behind the big one, Captain. Sounds like fun." "Fun?" Mara raised an eyebrow. "No, necessary." The squadron navigated through narrow gaps between massive asteroids, dodging fire that could vaporize any ship instantly. They reached the Vrelk flagship, its shields glowing ominously. Mara's ship fired a precision torpedo at the vessel's rear thrusters. The explosion rocked the flagship, sending it spinning and disrupting the formation. The Vrelk were in shock. Their flagship, the core of their command, had been attacked with surgical precision by a fleet that was outnumbered 5-1. Chaos spread through their ranks. Some ships turned to flee, others collided with each other in their panic. Mara's fleet did not hesitate. They pushed forward, exploiting every weakness, using every advantage. One human scientist aboard the intrepid Valor quickly adapted alien technology from captured Vrelk drones, creating a device that could temporarily disable enemy shields. Within moments, several Vrelk cruisers were vulnerable and humans destroyed them with targeted fire. "Captain," Lieutenant Cade said, eyes wide, "their morale is collapsing. They're slowing down, retreating, they're afraid of us." Mara's lips curved into a small smile. They should be. From orbit, refugees watched as the humans worked with precision. Humans did not just fight, they coordinated, adapted, and protected. Civilians lifted in pods, planets slowly clearing, and alien defenders who had despaired before now saw a glimmer of hope. A Vrelk fighter pilot watching from the edge of the battle muttered in disbelief, They are different, unpredictable, dangerous, too dangerous." Mara continued to orchestrate her fleet, keeping a careful balance between aggression and protection. Every move was calculated yet flexible. They were humans, brave, intelligent, and unrelenting. The Vrelk commander, furious and confused, ordered a desperate attack on the evacuation corridor. Dozens of ships sped toward the fleeing civilians. But human fighters intercepted them with precision, blocking fire, using maneuvers no alien pilot would think possible. One small fighter, piloted by a rookie named Lyra, took a near-suicidal dive into the path of a plasma beam, redirecting it into a Vrelk destroyer. The enemy ship exploded, saving hundreds of civilian pods in the process. From Calira's surface, survivors whispered stories that would spread through generations. "The humans, they fight for us. They fight like nothing else in the galaxy. They are unstoppable." Even among the Vrelk, fear had begun to spread. Ships slowed, formations broke, and pilots whispered about the strange, terrifying courage of humans. They were small in number, yes, but their unpredictability, their intelligence, and their refusal to surrender had turned what should have been a massacre into chaos for the invaders. Captain Mara watched the battlefield with calm determination. The first wave of civilians had been evacuated. The Vrelk were still dangerous, but human ingenuity had begun to level the field. "Prepare for the next phase," Mara said quietly to Cade. "We're only halfway through this fight. The galaxy is watching. The lives of millions depend on us. Every move counts." Cade nodded, respect in his eyes. "Yes, Captain, the humans, they truly are something else." Mara's gaze returned to the stars. This was just the beginning. The Vrelk would regroup, adapt, and strike again. But they would learn what the galaxy was slowly discovering. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were warriors, protectors, and masters of chaos and strategy combined. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, had hope. The Vrelk retreated only to regroup. Their ships, battered but far from destroyed, gathered near the outer edge of the Calira system. Commander Krath seethed. His pride as a tactician had been shattered by humans, creatures small in number, yet untouchable in cunning and ferocity. "Humans," he hissed through clenched mandibles, "they fight like nothing we have ever faced. They are impossible." On the intrepid Valor, Captain Mara Holden surveyed the distant fleet. "They're regrouping," she said, her voice steady, "and they think retreat will save them. It won't. Prepare the fleet for the full engagement. Every ship, every fighter, every crew member will be tested today." Lieutenant Cade's eyes were wide. "Captain, their numbers are overwhelming. They have nearly doubled since our last engagement." Mara's lips curved slightly. "Then we adapt. Humans thrive where others fail. Remember, they cannot predict us. That is our edge." The humans approached the Vrelk fleet carefully. Unlike the first encounter, the enemy now anticipated human unpredictability. They had learned, but they had not mastered it. Mara knew that sheer numbers would not intimidate her crews. Strategy, courage, and adaptability would turn the tide. Ensign Jax grinned at his squadron. "Looks like they brought friends this time. More targets for us." "Don't get cocky," Mara said over the comm. "Focus on protection and precision. Civilian pods first. Then we fight." The battle began in a flash of light and fire. Vrelk plasma cannons screamed across space, striking asteroid belts and planetary rings. Human ships dodged and weaved, using debris and quick maneuvers to avoid destruction. Small fighters darted between larger cruisers, exploiting blind spots and shield gaps. Mara led a squadron directly at the Vrelk center, aiming to disrupt their command. Using a combination of human-engineered EMP pulses and captured Vrelk tech, the humans disabled several key ships at once. The flagship's shields flickered, forcing Krath to adjust his formation rapidly. "Impossible," Krath bellowed. "They are striking where we are weakest." How? On the human side, civilians continued to evacuate, their pods moving steadily toward safe coordinates. Each human fighter acted as both shield and sword. Pilots dove into the path of enemy fire, sacrificing nothing but risking everything. Every strike was calculated, every movement intentional. In the chaos, one human scientist, Dr. Lila Morno, demonstrated ingenuity that would define humanity's legend. Working on the intrepid Valor, she modified a captured Vrelk drone mid-battle. The drone was reprogrammed to infiltrate enemy ships, disabling weapons systems from within. "Captain," Cade shouted, "she's sending drones into the flagship. They're shutting down their main weapons." Mara's eyes sparkled. "Exactly as expected. Humans think differently. That is why we win." The Vrelk fleet staggered under the human assault. Ships collided, formations broke, and panic spread among the alien pilots. Commander Krath, furious and desperate, ordered a direct strike at the human fleet. He did not understand that humans were not predictable targets. Captain Mara anticipated his move. She signaled her fleet to split. Smaller squadrons intercepted incoming fire, drawing enemy attention while the main human ships attacked weak points. The Vrelk flagship was struck repeatedly, shields failing, engines disabled, its command crew in disarray. On the surface of Calira, refugees watched the sky with bated breath. Smoke and fire streaked across the stars, yet humans moved like ghosts of precision and courage. Children clutched their parents, whispering prayers to beings they barely understood, yet had come to protect them. "Why are they?" an elder murmured. "Why are they willing to risk everything for us?" Because they were human, and humans did not calculate only survival. Humans calculated justice. The battle reached its peak near the outer asteroid belt. The humans executed their most daring maneuver yet. Captain Mara's squadron split into smaller groups, each attacking a different flank. They used the environment masterfully, hiding in debris, striking from unexpected angles, and retreating before the Vrelk could react. Lieutenant Cage shouted over the comms, "Captain, we've got the flagship cornered. Engines failing, shields offline." Mara nodded. "Prepare boarding drones. We disable them completely." Drones launched from human ships, infiltrating the Vrelk flagship and targeting key control systems. Lights flickered across the enemy vessel as systems shut down one by one. The once imposing flagship now drifted, motionless in the void. The Vrelk fleet, witnessing the destruction of their command center, faltered. Jax piloted his fighter around a group of enemy cruisers. "Let's see how they like a taste of human courage," he yelled, firing precision torpedoes that tore through their shields. Even the Vrelk's strongest ships fell to human ingenuity. Using a combination of environmental hazards, adaptive weapons, and fearless tactics, humans turned every disadvantage into an advantage. They were smaller, yes, but no opponent could predict them. Every strike told the galaxy a simple truth: humans were not just fighters, they were masters of adaptation. Amid the chaos, Mara noticed a civilian transport trapped between two Vrelk destroyers. Without hesitation, she ordered a daring maneuver. The intrepid Valor dove between the enemy ships, shields flaring, engines burning at maximum capacity. Human fighters followed, distracting the Vrelk. Mara fired the ship's weapons with surgical precision, destroying one destroyer and forcing the other to retreat. The civilians aboard the transport cheered, tears streaming down faces filled with awe. "The humans, they saved us," a child whispered, clutching a parent's hand. Commander Krath, furious and humiliated, realized the humans were unstoppable. His fleet was faltering, morale shattered. "Retreat, regroup, strike elsewhere," he ordered, but the humans were already controlling the battlefield. Mara, calm as ever, addressed her fleet. "Focus. Protect the civilians, disable the rest. Every move counts. The galaxy is watching." By the end of the battle, the humans had decimated a significant portion of the Vrelk fleet. Ships floated as wreckage across the Kalira system. Civilians were safe for now, thanks to human bravery and intelligence. The Vrelk commander, humiliated and fearful, retreated with what remained of his forces, leaving the humans in control of the system. Even among the Vrelk, whispers of fear spread. "They are not like anything else," a pilot murmured. "Humans unstoppable, terrifying." Captain Mara stood on the bridge of the intrepid Valor, surveying the aftermath. Her fleet, battered but victorious, hovered above Kalira. She exhaled slowly, her mind already planning the next steps. Lieutenant Cade approached. "Captain, the Vrelk will return." "They know now that humans cannot be defeated easily," Mara nodded. "Let them come. We will be ready. Humans are not just survivors. We are protectors. We are clever, adaptable, and fearless. That is why the galaxy will remember us." On the surface, civilians and remaining defenders cheered. They had witnessed a force beyond imagination. Humans had arrived not to conquer, not to demand, but to save, and they had done so brilliantly. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Vrelk would come back, stronger, angrier, and more determined. Humanity's lethal fleet had made an enemy for life. Yet, the galaxy had hope for the first time in centuries. Humans were a force unlike any other, capable of courage, ingenuity, and unstoppable determination. And in the dark void of space, Captain Mara Holden knew the truth. The reckoning was only beginning. The Vrelk would learn that underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. The galaxy had cried for help. Humans had answered. And they had answered with fire, intelligence, and heart. The Kalira system was quiet now. Fires still burned on the surface, but the human fleet had stabilized the chaos. The Vrelk retreat had left wreckage floating across space, a stark reminder of the battle that had shaken the galaxy. The humans hovered in orbit, vigilant, ensuring that no stragglers from the Vrelk forces could attack the civilian ships evacuating to safe systems. Captain Mara Holden stood on the bridge of the intrepid Valor, her eyes scanning the calm void. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, repairing ships, coordinating evac routes, and preparing for any unforeseen attacks. She knew the Vrelk would return eventually, but for now the lives of millions had been preserved. That was enough. Lieutenant Cade approached, his expression a mix of exhaustion and pride. "Captain, we've saved most of the civilians. The Vrelk fleet, it's scattered." "They won't return for months, if at all," Mara nodded. "Months might be enough. Humanity has made its mark here. The galaxy will remember Kalira, and it will remember us." On the surface, survivors emerged from shelters, their eyes filled with awe. Children ran through streets still littered with debris, laughing at the sky now empty of enemy ships. Families embraced, whispered prayers mingling with words of thanks for humans who had risked everything for strangers. In the ruins of a city, Commander Lurak of Kalira observed the humans in orbit. Tentacles trembling, he spoke softly into his calm. "The humans, they did not conquer. They did not demand. They saved us. The galaxy, we must respect them. We must learn from them." The Galactic Council, watching the events unfold from afar, murmured among themselves. They had always regarded humanity as reckless, unpredictable, and dangerous. But now, after witnessing humans save a civilization that had been doomed, fear and admiration mixed in their voices. "They are extraordinary," one delegate admitted. "A small fleet, yet they controlled the battlefield. They acted with courage and strategy we cannot match." Mara ordered the fleet to assist with the final stages of evacuation. Every human ship became a guardian, shepherding alien civilians to safety. The process was meticulous, efficient, and compassionate. Every life mattered. Every action was precise. Humans, the galaxy realized, were not just warriors, they were protectors. On one of the evacuation pods, a young Calirian girl clutched a small, battered toy. She looked up at the sky, at the silver streaks of human fighters passing overhead. "Will they come back?" she asked her mother. "They will," her mother whispered, tears in her eyes. "They will always protect those who cannot protect themselves." Mara watched from orbit as the final pods left Calira's atmosphere. Relief settled across her crew. The battle had been long and exhausting, but the goal had been achieved. The humans had given hope, safety, and life itself back to a planet that had almost been lost. Even as the humans celebrated their success, they did not let their guard down. Scouts were sent to the far edges of the system to monitor for any return of the Vrelk forces. Communications were established with nearby star systems to coordinate defense and reconstruction. Humanity's approach was not about glory, it was about responsibility. Lieutenant Cade approached Mara again, pointing at the communication feed. "Captain, the Galactic Council, they're sending a formal message. They want to acknowledge our efforts." Mara arched an eyebrow. "Let them send it. Humanity does not fight for recognition, Cade. We fight because it must be done." Still, the message was symbolic. Across the galaxy, transmissions spread the story of the humans who had arrived when the galaxy cried for help. Reports detailed how small fleets outmaneuvered superior numbers, how civilians were rescued with precision and care, and how the humans had turned what seemed an inevitable defeat into a triumph. Commander Lurak, speaking on a council broadcast, said words that would echo across star systems. "The humans are unlike anything we have known. They fight not for conquest but for justice. They do not calculate risk merely for survival, they calculate for life itself. They are a force both terrifying and magnificent." Even among the Vrelk survivors, fear and respect had replaced arrogance. Pilots whispered in astonishment, "Humans, they cannot be defeated. We underestimated them. Never again." In orbit, Mara reflected on the battle. She had lost some ships and the crews were weary. Yet, the human spirit had shone brighter than any weapon. Their combination of courage, ingenuity, and adaptability had secured victory. It was not brute strength that had won the day. It was the human way of thinking, of reacting, and of fighting with heart. In the aftermath, humans assisted Calira in rebuilding. They shared knowledge, technology, and expertise to stabilize the planet's infrastructure. Hospitals were set up, communication networks restored, and defense systems reinforced, not to dominate but to protect. Children learned to read under human guidance, engineers trained alongside human crews, and the people of Calira began to see that humans were more than just warriors. They were allies. They were saviors. Captain Mara addressed her fleet before leaving orbit. "We have done what was necessary. We have protected lives, defended the helpless, and shown the galaxy what humanity can do. Remember this, the galaxy will need us again. We will be ready." Lieutenant Cade smiled. "They will remember us, Captain. Every world, every species, they will remember what humans are capable of." Mara's gaze swept across the stars. "Let them remember. Let them never doubt humanity again." As the human fleet jumped to the next sector, news of the Calira defense spread like wildfire. Across multiple star systems, Leaders, civilians, and even rival species spoke in awe of the humans who had defied odds, outwitted enemies, and protected the innocent. Humanity's reputation transformed in a single campaign. No longer were humans viewed merely as reckless, aggressive, or unpredictable. They were now seen as a force of the galaxy, powerful, intelligent, and unyielding when justice was at stake. Captain Mara, standing on the bridge of her flagship, allowed herself a brief moment of pride. The battle was over, but the legacy of their actions had just begun. The galaxy had cried for help, and humanity had responded, not with hesitation, not with compromise, but with lethal brilliance and unwavering courage. And in that moment, one simple truth was clear. Wherever humans went, wherever life was threatened, the galaxy could count on them. They were warriors, saviors, and protectors. They were humanity. The stars seemed brighter that day, as if acknowledging the arrival of a new power. The Calira system would remember, the Galactic Council would remember, and the Vrelk would never forget. The humans had proven it. No force in the galaxy could match the combination of courage, ingenuity, and heart that defined their species. The galaxy had wept, and humanity had answered, with fire, strategy, and an unshakable will to protect. And the legend of humanity's lethal fleet was born.